Now it's on.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:01. Determine the quorum is present. I'm here, Joe Perry's here. And Matt Jones is absent. Aaron's here, Randy's here, and Chuck is here. Pledge and-
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together as a council and city. We ask you to bless this meeting, that you help us to make everything that we do and everything we say be in your will. We ask that you be with Wayne Bronner as he recovers from his medical condition. We just thank you and praise you for all your blessings. In Jesus' name. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
There's the announcements. Out of community interest may include recognizing citizen staff for outstanding contributions to the community. A reminder about an upcoming event that's organized or sponsored by the government body. An announcement of an imminent threat to public safety that's arisen after the posting of the certificate.
Evening, Mayor, Council. A couple of announcements to the library. July 24th, our Fun Friday is going to be our big Lego Club event. It's going to be Stuart Little boat races. So we'll be showing Stuart Little in the background. Kids will build Lego boats and then we'll race them across the pond. The next Fun Friday is going to be our after hours event. July 28th is going to be pop culture trivia night, ages 18 and up. And then our summer reading finale will end on July 29th, and it will start at 5:30 for the mini carnival, and the movie in the park will start at 8:00.
The park. Saturday. 6 o'clock. Let's start with it. Daniel Jacobson, Central Texas Government Code Section 551.001, City Council of Executive Session. Special following. Section 551.072, real property, land acquisition, project 30. All right, we'll reconvene into open session, time of 6:26. Workshop items, discuss city finances, tax rate, budget, initiatives, operations, projects, and strategic plans, not limited to, but including direction regarding tax rate, employee compensation and benefits, FY 23-24 projects, city departments and services, revenues and expenditures, and water and wastewater things.
I'm gonna pass this out. I have a handout for you of the, budget that we are proposing for the Aubrey MDD. And so I have it outlined for you in all of our line items, and I have a few things highlighted. I'll just discuss with you, that are big changes. Is, any of you have any other questions? We have not been renewed in a while, and so the TML, Texas Economic Development Council, and we've added Texas Downtown, which is an association for smaller cities and larger downtowns throughout the state, and the Aubrey Chamber of Commerce, of course. And then we have technology and promotions. This is probably one of the bigger line item changes we've had, due to the fact that we're investing in some data research programs and subscriptions to help us track current sales tax trends and what we're seeing happen in Aubrey real time. And also we have a Placer AI, and Zack Tax is one of those subscriptions. Placer AI is a larger database subscription that would give us access that is placed on our phones every day. So it's also approved by, it's public information, and public information you give permission to on the phone, and you opt into use your location services. So this is data sourcing for us to have trends on where is Aubrey's money going, where's it coming in, where you want to shop, where it's, you know, a good source of, for us to know what does our profile look like, and where do we know we can bring in customers of a certain type of business name, and where are we losing some customers to for those things. So it's a very good resource. A lot of cities are using it. And so it's definitely something that would be helpful for us in our economic development goals. And then marketing and advertising, we added on this line item. It is new, but I separated it out, recommended separating it out, because we do want to focus some efforts on some online and digital advertising and print media, as well as, you know, includes exhibitor booths, sponsorships, and business networking engagement activities, and digital updates to our photos and photo library, our video library as well. So we don't really have a lot of that right now, but we do need to be gathering that and paying for professional services. That's it for the highlights.
Would just like to add to Christine's information here that we're on 60 days now. And we've done a lot in 60 days on the MDD side. Made a lot of contacts. A lot of information has been passed. We've had 2 meetings thus far. I think it's been very productive on some of the things moving forward. The MDD board is very anxious, just like we talked about during executive session, to get going on some property acquisition and bringing businesses in and looking at ways that we can really grow where we need to grow and what citizens want. And I think that's part of what Christine is doing. She's listening to a lot of people in the community about what they want and what are the desires of the people. So I want to applaud her for that. She did a fantastic job on this after the 60 days. She's drinking water through a fire hose right now. Because it's a lot, so I just wanted to thank her.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
So tonight we're gonna focus on the water, wastewater and trash. But before we did that, I wanted, just so we can have some continuity, I wanted you to take a look at this first sheet, which is an index. And I know a couple years ago, we tried to put page numbers on it, as a disaster. But if you go to the back and get to this first sheet here, I've written one at the bottom. And I think it's 1 through 27, 1 through 28. And they are referenced on these sheets here. So if we're talking about something specific and you're like, well, water revenue, where can I see the detail of that? Flip open to page 21, I've indicated on there. And if you go to page 21, you're gonna see the water revenue. It's just helpful as you're listening to presentations. So that's the index. The next sheet is a summary of where we're at with the budget. The top part is the general fund, showing the revenue and the expense and the surplus. And then below it is the enterprise fund. I broke it out by the 2001 is water, 2002 is sewer, and 205 is trash. You see the amounts there, and you can see the page that it's on. Overall surplus of about $382,000 today. So we'll get into some of that detail in a minute. The next sheet is just for reference. It is the same sheet we had at the last workshop. The highlighted one in gray there, the 15,000, that is an add from last meeting. Leanne took a look at it and realized we did not have this salt spreader, salt and sand spreader, so we've added that to streets. But that's the only change I made to what we talked about last. And then the last sheet, I just updated the cash balance report, again, as reference to where we're at. We have used some of the money for some of the projects that are going on with the street. We also have a phase 1 offsites at Keeneland. They're active there, so some of those funds have been used since the last time you saw it, which was the 531 balance. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I did on that second page, I gave you the page references to where I picked up the, for instance, the revenue for general fund is on page 2. So if you look at the bottom of page 2, you'll see the 16,487,774 and all the detail above it, which again, we covered last time, but just to give you a reference. And the same thing, if you go to page 21, that's where you're going to see the detail of the water, and then followed by sewer and the trash department. So again, just as a cross-reference, as Leanne is talking through some of the detail changes that she's making for this year. Okay.
Have some handouts too. Have three presentations. The whole packet.
Okay. I'll take it
You know,
back.
pass it around.
You're a left passer.
No,
Sorry to
all of those.
It's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the rest of the city. Start with development, services, planning. Now, do y'all have it ready? It's the amazing. Some of this information you guys were able to see at a presentation a few months ago over the overall department. Some of it may be new. So I included our mission and values again, so you can have highlights. The budget highlights for development services, we worked on a grade and step pay plan. Added a promotion of a coordinator to a permits and CFP manager. We evaluated long-term staffing plan that we had included at our last budget. And ended up with 2 new positions for this division. And we added some program software. The next page, I just wanted to give you a picture of what the flow chart looks like for now, for this area. We haven't created all these departments yet. The blue is how many positions we have now, plus the 2 that we're requesting. And then that's our future projections for 24, 25, 26. We'll massage that every year depending on how things go. Now, the next slide is just a clip of the pay scale that we put together. And the positions that are in these departments have the stars by them. We're looking at a 6-step to get started. This kind of follow the police and fire. This will be our beginning. We'll have the 6 steps. 2.5% in between the steps. And the step 1 would be where the starting salary should be based on our pay scale study and our surrounding communities. We're still working on that a little bit to fine tune it, but we're really close. We still need some more information on pay scale. Wanted to show you where those are landing currently. Our accomplishments in development, we were able to implement the process of doing the minor flats in-house. I remember that in the presentation we did, and we have done 4, I believe, since then, so it's working. We hired our code enforcement officer and implemented an in-house program. Our plan is to end our contract with All American for code enforcement this budget cycle and continue to animal control with them. Most of our forms are in place. We're issuing warnings, we're communicating, going out investigating, taking complaints. Our next process will be to work on the lien process and the court process to the private. We'll be able to do that when we need.
I'm really bothered about them. So,
Yeah. So you see in the monthly report, I believe we issued 47 warnings this month for all grass. Our goals will be to adopt the 23 National Electrical Code and the 21 International Building Code. We've started that process, and it'll probably take several months for us to work through that, and hopefully we can make that effective January. Updating our future land use plan, and creating an overlay district for downtown areas, so that we have lots that can be built on in the future. And to coordinate the comprehensive and strategic plan within the group. The positions that we propose to add to this division would be the GIS technician and the planner. This year, we've been trying to locate a planner, as you probably know, and we've not been successful. But we've really overloaded permitting. We have the support for outsourcing our planners. So we went ahead and started looking for a permit tech, so that we could start doing more of the planning, permit tech, learn and do more of the planning. So we just wanted to put that position back in there in case somebody comes along and snatch them up. And the implementation of the software program is the biggest ticket item you'll see shortly. But that is needed for us to continue moving forward with building inspections. As we find an inspector and we're able to start doing that, we've got to have a program that we can use. The next slide, just a little bit of explanation about those two positions. So this division would end up having 7 positions total. You see the 5 that we have now, and then we would add that planner and GIS. We're not fully staffed. The permit technician, the building inspector are still vacant, and then these 2 other positions. We give us 4 vacancies. This next slide talks a little bit about our software program. This is a budget holding number, 185,000. We'll definitely do lots of research. We've already started reaching out to people to come in and do presentations. We'll totally exhaust Encode and make sure it can't do what we need it to do before we go out and purchase. But that's the process that we're seeing.
Then what is the annual after that? Updates, 30, 40, 50 a year?
No, it would be more like 10,000. Yeah, so just depends on which one we go with. I remember the one that MyGov, I think is the one that we're looking at. Most of them want to do an online presentation, and I want them to come here. We'll see. That's pretty much it in a nutshell for development services. How it works. Same thing here, put in our mission and values again. Budget highlights, this will be the same through all of the departments, the grade and step plan. Looking at the long-term staffing plan and updating it as we went. This year, we're wanting to add 3 new positions. The fleet replacement plan, which I think you heard about last time from Chief Slaughter. And we evaluated our water and sewer rate study. Anticipated the operation and maintenance costs that we would encounter, and updated our capital improvement time. This one's a little harder to read because there's more. But this is the flow chart that we currently have for public works. We haven't created all of the departments, but they're kind of in their areas as far as the general budget and then the enterprise budget. Utilities, water and sewers enterprise, and the other half is our general side. We left the projections in there as we continue to grow the positions that we might need to add. Pay scale, again, and the positions are listed there on the left-hand column. Again, we're still fine-tuning those numbers, but we're pretty well at the median end right now of the pay scale. Water department, our accomplishments, up until recently, was the Botner water bill. Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't count off, Chuck. And I want to explain that to you a little bit too, but we completed it. We had an operation with pumped water. We were doing great, and we had some minor setbacks. So I'll go over that with you shortly. We did get the lead and copper testing the first round done. We have our corrosivity report done, ready to submit to TCEQ. Don't believe the well being out of service will affect that. But we have some additional testing that could affect. I can explain that more about. We completed, or we got our CIP phase 1 offsites in construction, and we're 90% complete on one of the projects. Probably 75 on the 24-inch under the railroad, and the lift station, we're probably about 25%. Everything's moving relatively smoothly. Have a few pickups, but we're working through. Our main goals is staff training and development for upgrading license with this eventually new add of surface water, and with our upsizing our wastewater plant, we're required to have operators with higher license. So we started that training, and we'll get those licenses. Budget assumptions. pretty much the same as the others. We worked on a great plan, a step plan, and looked at your cities. We're requesting to add one. One of those three positions is the water operator position. And we increased our budget line items for lab fees and water system. We were starting to qualify on those. This next slide, just gives you a little bit of explanation of that operator position. And it shows who we already have budgeted in the water department. An expanded request for the water department is a dump truck, which is in the fleet replacement plan. And I hydrant is in our capital line item in the water department. The I hydrant is a smart fire hydrant that measures the flow and pressure so that we can monitor that in the system. Right now, we don't have any data monitors in the system. We would have to go out and manually gather that data. Our plan is to require each development to add at least one in each of their developments. And then we'll have a few in the system that we will be able to manage. The dump truck, we have a small dump truck. It's not really a dump truck, it's a dump bed. And with the size of holes that we have to dig now for the line pipe, we have to make numerous trips for one truck. So it's time for our accomplishments in sewer department, we did implement inflow and infiltration program looking for stormwater leaks that would enter into our sewer system. That's taken up with us being sewer.
Looks like a sound.
Exactly. We returned to the police station, the service, and we are just almost done with the Wilson lift station here on Portsmouth Bay. They did a final walkthrough, did a update today, and then tomorrow. Goals, sewer department, same thing, we need to work on our license, we will be required to have a B operator. Currently, other than mine, we only have a city is our highest. We need to increase that one. And complete that design of that new one. We are at 60% right now. So we're trucking along. In the sewer department, one of those positions, we go to the sewer department and we're looking for an instrumentation technician position. It's a position that we would do our electrical and our SCADA. Currently have quite a bit we've added this year, and every new well station, sewer station, we're adding more and more SCADA. And we have increased line fees and service system needs in certain companies. So we have 4 positions now, this technician will within 5 from sewer department. Our expanded requests for the sewer department, just 2 little items. Vacuum jetter truck, that's in the fleet maintenance program as well. This would be a lease. The truck is about $480,000 to purchase. The truck have a lot of maintenance and downtime. So it would be better if we leased it. With a lease, we get an orange truck when it's down, and all the maintenance is free. And then we would have an option to return it in 5 years. So that could be the big thing. Currently, will be that one. Also, I need to add a pump. It's a 6-inch portable pump, and it's used to bypass sewer. We have a blockage and we have a collapse. We can use that pump to take sewer. The fun stuff. We hired a park spending. Purchased additional land, to expand the veterans park. And we hosted numerous events, bring festival in the park. Our goals, would be to make improvements to our existing parks. That's one of the directions from our parks board, and I'd like to see us improve what we have, and then start expanding the parks plan. Develop the pay scale, step grades, added a maintenance, we want to add a maintenance technician. And do some expansions when my goal was in 1 week. Budget, you don't see them in the budget, so we planned it not we'll need to bring to the other day. One of the recommendations from the park board was to build basketball goals, the lowest in the park, 100. Here's kind of an example of what that would look like. The other was to the other one was to update some of the putting in napkins. This is some examples of some of the playground equipment that the board looked at. And a new playground. And that was part of it.
We did that in the budget, that's been said.
That's our plan for this year. It's to update those areas.
I've got it in the budget.
Yeah, we did it. We should.
At Matthews Park, 250,000. And Leslie Park, 500. They're part of the.
No, there's so, seriously, there's so much. I'm always afraid to tell you that. Okay. So those are the improvements, that we have on the funds, so they. That's great.
Memorial Park.
That's another item that's included as well, so. We haven't started the redesign of the entire park, but in the interim of being able to do that, we want to go ahead and do something at the monument. So we want to do the landscaping fencing, and keep people from following the monument. Add a little bit of beautification, maybe some flowers and shrubs, just to get us by until we actually do the full on the park. So, yes, and that's on target. We need to do a new contract with TechStar. We've started that process. And it would be to do the sidewalk, the parking, all along the front, on Main, trees, and then down the two sides. So that's a go. And then our plan would be to start focusing on the rest of the phases of downtown. TechStar is going to make turn lanes. They're going to do striping, make turn lanes on Main Street. And then we'll just start working on the processes to see what we can do. Hopefully get some grants for the sidewalk program. So I'm just kind of trying to roll all that together. Hopefully the plan will be not good. Let's get a partnership. And that was our next page. The Veterans Memorial Park, the Matthews, Leslie. And then the other capital item or expanded request is to add a side by side to the Parks Department. You recall we purchased one last year in the sewer department. We've been sharing it. Works out great. Have to rent less. Yes, that's included replacement as well. I'm pretty proud. We will advise the next step, and then you guys will be seeing it. The total. Okay. We made drainage repairs on White and then Smith Street, we have, those are in process right now. I know it hasn't been totally perfect, but I think it's been relatively smooth. And then we can find some, I think we're doing a good job for that. Our goals were develop the junior capital improvement program, and we pretty much have it in draft form. We just need to come to you with some funding options on that. And that'll be our next workshop for meeting those capital things. And then provide for 20 minutes during adverse weather. So we next spreader, picture of it is there that pulled off work. It will just allow us to do some minor softening or sanding. And then that bad weather.
The picture that you have is not what you have.
Nobody would have known.
I like what your picture is.
Yeah. What is it?
Salt dog,
Soft dog?
to go in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking for.
That's not a 6-yard sand spreader.
Might need to check my picture.
You might need to check.
Where salt dog
This-
costs 15,000.
The 6-yard sand and salt spreader's 15.
I just bought 2 for 15.
Okay, so we need to do some work on this. We need to purchase something that we can apply some salt and sand with, in adverse weather.
Yes, and they're plastic. Thing, so it doesn't mess that up.
And goes on the bed of the truck.
It doesn't,
That's
3/4.
Me too.
Yeah,
2 of them for 15,000. Well,
I'd be happy with 2 for 15.
It's all cotton wool.
So, don't mind, I'll get out with you and get some suggestions. But no, that's great, if they're not 15, then I would have to.
I'd still be willing to go to 15 and get 2. It's not. But that text off that road is so far down the. Right, well.
We would. I think too, would get our name, get our areas that are bad.
Well, the other nice thing about the.
So I was one of our. That we help them out. And then we'll write it down. I just meant we. We can't be on the text side. We would be sending the writers. I wouldn't want the citizens to think that we were gonna manage everything with these two. So our goal again, the safe routes to school, we did get some communication back. We're still in the process. They had, I forget, it was billions of requests, billions of dollars of requests, and they have millions to spend. So still don't know where we stand, but I'm hoping that we get at least one in time. We'll continue, even if we don't get the grant, we'll continue to see if we can put together a program to try and get some sidewalk programs going. We'll keep on that. And we are revising our specifications and standards for pavement, drainage, sidewalks, street signs, water, sewer as well, we mentioned that earlier. And right now we have some, but mostly we revert back to the Texas Council of Government which we may still do some of that, but we want to have a good document. to rely on. We're not proposing any new personnel in the street department. We are still small enough that our departments are still working together and it mix as they need to. As we add, we can start looking in those departments specific and doing more work in that category. I think they've done a really good job in doing that. Well, yeah. Expanded requests for a street department is a skid steer and a trailer. And that is in the fleet program. And then our, whatever it is, in the back of our truck for our salt.
So Myers,
Same. Salt dog,
Myers, salt,
Meyer salt dog.
2 for 15.
Two for 15.
And that sounds so easy.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's right.
Our last slide. Our accomplishments for solid waste. We survived the franchise agreement reassignments and implementation to a new provider. Our goal is to provide excellent service and communication to our citizens. Seriously, it has been going really well. It has caused quite a bit more work as far as billing. Now we're doing the billing for the commercial as well. So Pam's had a lot more on her plate getting that set up. But in setting that up, we did find that we probably were not getting franchise fees for all of the commercial. Because they were just setting up accounts kind of on their own. So we're, yeah. We get it.
And they are being, they're communicating with us better. I know we had the issues a couple of weeks ago, the other day, we had the street construction door, and they could not get down one of the streets because the asphalt was so torn and solid. And they notified us immediately that they couldn't get that done, and we were able to send out information. We appreciate the communication. Our disconnect last time was our main contact on vacation. Yes.
Well, that's what makes sense. There's a bulk, you know, there was a lot of stuff. It looked like everybody put it down.
And our main contact was on vacation. And something happened during the process. I don't even think we still know exactly what transpired, but they did the work afterwards. They, anybody that they were going to do personal pickups for anybody who was missed, all they had to do. So salute them for that. Thank you.
But don't think much about that scab on
Right. Next is our water and sewer rates. So the budgets, the water and sewer budgets that we just went over and presented. We took into consideration a water and sewer rate increase. The water 4%, sewer 6%. That's just presentation and discussion. We have the water rate study and presentation. So seems like I've missed a month since I worked at last work. But in that presentation, if you recall, they were suggesting a 25% increase. And as we worked through that, we talked about other ways to have that to not have that significant increase. And one of them was that development cash account that would be a mitigation for rate. So I want to go over that a little bit with you here. The expenses that we took into consideration was capital improvement plan of about 50 million over the next 5 years. The operation and maintenance cost inflation and to maintain fund balance. The assumptions were debt issuance of 22 million in fiscal year 24, 3% inflation, and for us to maintain a 90-day balance. And how we'll get there is the rate revenue, impact fees, debt issuance, and then development cash payments. So the next slide is just the same slide that they presented with that 25% increase at a 5,000 gallon water and a 4,000 gallon wastewater customer. Our proposed bill minimum would be 161. And you see that we're way above our peers. So Mike's done a lot of work, looking at all of our different funds, and methods. And so proposing the 4 and 6 with the developer fund mitigation, our proposed would be 108, which would be a $5 a month increase for the citizen. And it puts us, we're still relatively at the top, but we are not top. We'll still be under plan. Without the rate increase, may want to take over from.
Sure. So if we were to keep the rate the same, the impact would be about $130,000 to the revenue. We thought we would start with this rate level to keep it down, but also to keep us in line with the future requirements we're gonna have to meet. It's primarily debt service and the maintenance of the existing system, which is quite old. So, and then of course deal with inflation. So those three factors, we are getting the impact of the new developments. We're getting money for that. We're also getting developer upfront money, which will be very helpful in easing into the debt service that we know is coming with the wastewater treatment plant. So we tried to balance as much as we could and to keep the recommended rate increase as low as we could, but still be able to maintain a good fund balance going forward and a good plan to meet the debt service, which we know is coming. So that's kind of where Leanne and I and Charles, we landed. And the numbers you see, as Leanne said, there's a 4% increase in water and a 6% in sewer, resulting in the net surplus of $382,000 for next year's budget.
So in the developer agreement that has language that the payments are putting out specifically for water, and sewer, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes, so it'll be water impact fee, sewer impact fee, physical plan, and then if there's any additional share or percent that they have to pay.
So that's kind of what we're talking about here, the developer.
Yes.
We didn't mention, but we did receive the developer payment this week, wire transfer.
One of the developers percent for the phase 1 complex that are in construction.
$4 million. Yeah, it's a wire transfer.
Some of us bring fish up.
We asked for those big checks.
Yeah. Did you get like an alert, an email alert, this big wire transfer to them?
Well, I had a warrant logic that it was coming.
Yeah.
Because they need to know where to put it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we did all that. And we were ready.
Keeping the rates down. That was, when we went through this with the rate setting that Dallas did their group. We were not happy at all with the percentages that they presented to you, as we said that night during the meeting, this is going to cause a lot of work to be done. But I think that influx of cash that we can keep in reserve and help us with this debt service over the next 4 years, I believe, right? It's the first 4 years of the program. That upfront cash will help us with that debt service to keep us from having to raise rates in earlier this year. Now, that doesn't mean that in years to come that we have to look at it and see whether or not have to update. I was very pleased with the info of 4 and 6 because when we first started talking about it, 10 and 8. And 10 was pretty significant. I talked to the mayor about 10. That was a large number.
Yeah, where's the maintenance coming from for the wells?
So it would be our operation budget.
we, we did talk about it. It's a good word to a finance person is leverage. So the investment in this wastewater treatment plant will be able to leverage that for other developments, which will give us the opportunity to spread some of the costs, which is what we're talking about. We start off where it's going to be very difficult without the influx of cash to meet the debt service and to get the things built. But once we have the rooftops and we start building other developments, there'll be more development cash. And also we have a higher rate of water users. So our goal is to keep the rate as low as we can. While still maintaining the system. So these next 4 years. Initial build out that service before the house got to that 4 years.
Enterprise fund is self-contained. So, just to ease your mind on, but I think you're thinking, there's a line that we placed and we told everybody, right, tell us, Jim, anybody that helps us with this, no general fund money can be spent at all when it comes to the enterprise, because that was one of the first things that was recommended to us. Is why don't you put some general fund reserve into this? And I said, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. We need to take it to the council. We're staff won't even bring it to, because we know how you feel about that. We're supposed to make this work as an enterprise, and we're going to make it. And that is our goal. So that's what we put on everybody that we talk to.
Thank you.
Right now, our only two debts in enterprise side are 16 CO and then 23. So that 4 million, is that gonna pay towards the 23 CO and knock that down to half or?
Probably not. The next discussion we have on the capital plan, we hope to have some expert input that will advise us on the best way to handle that. I don't think he's going to advise us to pay down that debt. I think he's going to keep it in reserve. When you look at the way the cash is going to be going out, we want to have some reserve of cash to meet that. While the rates, while the housetops drive the revenue up in water and sewer, that's going to take some time. So we got to get over that gap. So I don't think we'll be paying down the debt, although we did talk about that. I'm thinking it's going to be used more in reserve for debt service to keep the rates as low as we can.
We have tentative takedown schedules for the two developments. So I did some rough numbers for fiscal year 23. It looks like we'll bring in about 419,000 in water impact fee, 475,000 in sewer, 264 in roadway, and 120,000 in parks. And then each year it's just gets bigger. So over a 5 year between 23 and 28, the park fees that will collect is 13 million. And roadway 719,000, sewer 7.3 million, and water 1.5. And get cheap. That's not used as a friend.
So we probably have a good chance of keeping water rates the same. Right, because as we have more households, then we're to raise costs, so even with inflation, even with more people needed to maintain it, there's a chance that will go up. Right.
Yes, that is one of the reasons that they have recommended Jim and Tellus had recommended putting general fund money in, because we're trying to bridge a gap between what we have right now, rates coming in, and the rooftops that are going to be over. That's going to ramp up the funds coming into it, the water usage and the sewer usage. So that's where we came up with holding the not paying down the debt, but holding the 4 million in reserve, so that we can bridge. We're bridging the gap, and if we can get that gap bridged, rates could level and be level for a while. We can't deny we're pretty high on our rates.
Our reserve threshold is the same as the general. What, about which that?
Let's calculate it.
We pulled that down to 60. Recommended in the rec house to keep the enterprise at 60. I think the policy only. I do not know.
Also matches that they're like.
So if we take.
That's right, they wanted to pull it down to 60. You're right.
3 million, the total expenses for water and sewer is 3.5 million. Divide that by 12. Times 3. We. 3.5 million divided by 4. 875,000. That is the amount we want to keep in reserve. All a million.
What? 143,000.
You're looking at the cash sheet.
Well. I will.
So we have, within water, and we could talk about how these are used, but part of that reserve is going to be fees that we receive for impact fees, sewer and water impact fees. Although they are restricted, we can't use them. I mean, it's not like it's got to just sit there. So we have about $1.2 million in impact fees for water and sewer. Water and sewer reserve is at 860,000. So I think we're in pretty good shape with regards to a 90-day reserve cash reserve.
Go back to the policy too, and make sure it does talk about. I seem to only remember general fund, but we'll make sure.
We talked about it at the last workshop, so the general fund side is forward.
Almost 60.
And like we said, we need to discuss how they use that money, right? I show. 7.2. Yes. But could be a source of funds. But
We wanted to, we can discuss that tonight. The options. At our last workshop, we talked about, we don't really know where the tax rate will fall. And things on be debt incurred. Do you want to have debt for the food service fund? Do we want to use fund balance to do that? Do we want to take that money from other places? Are there some other things we want to do as we've discussed property acquisition? Do we want to fund that through reserves? Do we want to fund that through parks? Do we want to do that with a bond or having short-term debt? I have asked Jim Sabonis. I feel like that we're at a spot. Now, I'm not an expert here, but I feel like we're at a spot. I'll talk to Mike about this, and we need to be careful taking out long-term debt at this point because we have a lot to do over the next decade. And I hate to lock in our debt capacity with long-term debt for short-term needs. And I've asked Jim we're going to have a meeting with Jim to discuss what our options are for some short-term debt. if we wanted to fund the fleet replacement program, maybe buy some property, do those sorts of things on a short-term basis, have a 5 to 7 year term, so that we can have debt capacity, as we talked about in the future, for capital projects. I mean, as you know, we can't stay here. This is, we have employees that we recommended in this budget that we have no place to put at all. We're still talking about affordable building. That's still in the budget. I know the mayor was concerned that money was there. We will probably have to push that money forward into next year. It'll fall into reserve, but we probably just need to go ahead and budget for it. Or do something for next year to have that there. So there are a number of things that we need. We talked about public safety center, to move police and fire. Do we build a public safety center? Do we build a police department? Do we build a combo? You know, do we wait 5, 6, 7 years and build a combo of city hall to have a campus? You know, have a new community center with something for parks. You know, we've talked about the library. Should we turn the Matthews Park area into a large park and encompass the library with that and build a new library somewhere else? There's so many things that are on the table for you to think about in the future. And I'm not saying these things because we as staff say, we want you to do this. These are just things that are out there that can be talked about as far as for the future, long-term debt. Because I had a conversation with Jim about stopping with the long-term debt and looking at it from the short term. So I said, Jim, look, we need $200 million over the next decade. I mean, you can't build a public safety center for less than $25 million. It's going to be expensive. And then you just throw a city hall in there, so a senior center in there. I mean, when our population is 30 or 40,000, we want a recreation center. I mean, Little Elm, from what I understand, what's his name, Chad? From what I understand from Chad, they are, with the exception of capital, they are self-sufficient. I know everybody smiles when you say that, but I'm sure there's some supplementing in there somewhere. But even if they're close, they're still providing a tremendous service to their community and what they have. They have a gym, daycare, they don't have daycare, but they have an area for kids when parents are using the gym. They have a gym for kids to use. They have an indoor aquatic center. They have a senior center just around the corner. They have the lakes thing that I never want to have anything to do with whatsoever. Please do not tell us that we need a lake for the beach. It is a trouble for them. But these are things that are 10, 15 years down the road. Christine has in her budget $100,000 that we talked to the MVP about last night for their strategic plan that will complement our comp plan that we need. These are things that are going to come out of the comp plan. And I'm afraid that I don't want to recommend any kind of long-term debt to you, because I want us to be able to look at that comp plan and say, now this is where we need the long-term debt. This is where we need, in 10 years, we're going to want a community center. Jim, design us a debt profile that we know we can get to when we get in 2033, we can have bonds that will allow us to do the rest. So I think we're in a gap here too, where I want to be careful. I know we need to move forward with a lot of things, land acquisition and things like that. We do have a good piece of property already, which was very, very great for the council to do. And I mean, we have that in reserve. It's sitting there waiting for us. I think we could get a full campus on it. I mean, it's 7 acres. We could get a city hall, a community center, or at least a senior center, police and fire. But I mean, we've got to have the citizen input on that comp plan to say what we need. And we'll get that from the comp plan. I mean, they'll have how many other meetings we tell them that if we want 6 community meetings and we want a blue ribbon committee to tell us, say, hey, you know, these are your elected representatives, what do you want for your future? You know, a lot of times, you know, it's difficult to build a city hall because, you know, everybody loves a fire. You can get a fire station, but it's hard to get a city hall. And it depends on, I guess, you know, what they think about police at the time. if you can get a police department. So if we put all this together and have a blue ribbon committee that we can.
That's all we can say on our phone.
Yeah, that. But some of them are
As long as he
difficult,
can play Xbox occasionally.
but some of them are difficult for citizens to understand that this is really a neat thing. And that's where these blue ribbon committees come in. And you just have to be patient out there and let them know that these things are important. You have to have these. So I think if we concentrate on the comp plan, which is, we hope to have RFP done before October 1. We would like to fire off immediately after the first of October, we'll get a PO for whoever's going to do it. And then tell us. What do you want? What is the community want? What is the council want? What is the union want? What are the stakeholders want? Talk to business. And see what they. want. And then staff would have input on this, or maybe we have a retreat. But I think that we need the tax information. Then we need to come back to you and look at it. I'm hoping to have it. I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it at that next meeting. The meeting may run too long. There's a couple of presentations. Here. So, we'll look at the agenda. I don't think so. We'll look at the agenda and time it and see if we can get an hour-long workshop out of the meeting on the 27th.
We want to follow our timeline. We need to take advantage of every time we're on.
I agree. So if we can get the tax sheet in, the tax worksheet in, so that you can be looking at it from a debt standpoint, what we want to do, what we want the tax rate to be.
Can we put a list together that has all the departments requested in one list? Rather than,
You should have that from the last meeting.
Well, that means we should be
Everything's there. We'll get you another copy of it.
Is it this one?
Uh-huh.
I guess I'd like to see everything together.
The only thing
What- what's that?
is
What's that total?
Salter.
If we look at the available funds that we have, like the reserve funds. If we subtract out. That money that's already allocated to something. I mean, if it says we have 7.2, but if 300,000 of that is for the building, then we can't count it. We just subtract that off the top. We didn't know how much money of that we have to actually work with. So we know what we can mark off that list. And then when we get the tax rate number, we'll be able to see. What additional money we have to mark some more things off of it.
So we can do that because, here I'm looking at this from a standpoint, you've got the fleet fund. You've got $334,000 in capital outlay. You have your development fund, that's really covering your parks over here. And then you have 282 that we've already spent. So you've got 1.8 million in 2024 budget items that you could consider, like you're saying.
Well, that is, we can also remove the things that we've already agreed to find out of this year. Correct, we don't need to see them.
That's great. We'll create you a new list for the next workshop and give you everything that we think, land, property acquisition, fleet services. I see where you're. We do that.
We had the salt fire out of this year.
2 for 15. Can we get what do y'all think of the sign? Throwing one in here for you. Y'all like the sign?
And there are two of them.
The message boards?
Well, is there two of them?
We only have one. They're just moving it around a lot.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Oh,
I thought we had two. I'm like, hey, where'd it come from?
I asked Chief Brooks to prepare that as a item. Stalker actually brought that in on a whim and said, we want to leave this with you. We know you wanted one for a long time, so we want you to be able to test it out. It's a earlier in the year model, I think, it's a 2023 model, and they've offered it to us at a $1,500 discount because it's already available. And they're letting us keep it for 30 days. I thought Jeremy was going to move it down for music in the park. He may be.
It's on, for example. What's?
It's music in the park.
What's the price on it?
It's 16. So he's got the paper over there and I told him that we would try to bring it up either tonight or at the next workshop and add that. So we may just go ahead and we'll just add that to this.
But additionally, it's a message board, but it's also covert radar detecting the speed that goes by the train.
Wow, no kidding.
Yes.
So it will give us a third opportunity to put devices out to track speed. Without, and this one they won't realize it's tracking the speed unless we set it to go. But we can announce.
Where are the clock cameras? Were those something that we were doing this year?
We left those in the budget for next year. Mike and I were concerned. I'm okay at 30, if Mike's okay at 30. But we still want to keep a cushion this year in case, because we've got some emergency repairs that we've already signed up for. It's 150,000 in emergency repairs at the sewer treatment plant and the Rock Hill well that have to be done. We have no choice. We've already initiated those, so we still need that surplus cushion there in case we need something, but we could do salt spreader now. So I would assume we have to get them on order or they won't be here.
That's why I was thinking, we need to move.
So we could go ahead and do those and the message board, if y'all like the message board. We'll just put it on the list for the next meeting for you to say, hey, check this one off.
I just wanted to ask about the clock ones. I don't know if anyone watches Crossword, but they've been putting out, they have them now. And they've been putting out announcements on people they caught, what happened, how they came across. I think there's been 6, just in like the last week.
Well, it'll be on your list when we
Yeah.
talk about it next time, because it's part of this 334, so we'll go ahead and put it on the list for the next meeting. And Mike will have an update at that point to our surplus, of where we're at. Chief Slaughter and I will have had an opportunity to meet with at least all boards.
By the 27th.
By the 27th, we will have met with all 5 of the local boards to see where they're at on our budget recommendation of a flat rate. And that's kind of your surplus you're looking at right now for the 24 budget will either, it will either stay the same or go up depending on what they're there, because we're saving some revenue back. We're holding revenue back in that budget so that we can see what they're going to do. We're not positive yet, but what their decision is going to be.
So you mentioned the repairs that we have to do, that 150,000. So that's coming out of the enterprise fund.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
so
the
how does
third
that impact the clock cameras? It's out of a different fund.
I'm just using that as an example.
Got it.
Of in case we have an issue that comes up, because I don't know. I mean, we can have air conditioners go down,
Right. I get it.
but we'll know, we'll have a new surplus number for you on the 27th. And we'll have a list and you can go through it, and if you want to buy a thing, right now, we'll spend them. No task. After that last meeting, I mean, it was like POs were raining down in my office, coming from all directions. Leanne brought me one today for 90,000. It was for the.
Well, I think it's a nice thing about, staff is so conservative. Right, and they want to make sure that we are, lower than expected, and I think really cost conscious, so. I mean, that's fantastic, and then it gives us the ability in the spring to say, oh, we have extra, let's do this.
Like for us to get think about getting a sign like some of the previous folks used to have at the park up here. One of the cheaper ones that you need to put letters on, just for. Yeah, just a little marquee sign, little. Like this little marquee sign. I noticed they have on marquees. Well, I hear you.
Yeah, we would really like to have one
Okay.
in the park. That would be our goal.
I was thinking of cheaper than that, but
We could do something in the interim that we could move about. We never used to rent the sign with the arrow. We could do one of those.
I was just,
That's nice.
just something to say like chili cook off this weekend or whatever. So,
Make it a temp thing, and then we can use that at other locations once we get a monument sign in the park. We can buy them.
I just don't want it to cheapen the look of the park, because the park looks really nice.
I did research, like the grass issue, and that's the same, but I read about it, and that's if you water during the day, all you're gonna do is you're heating. It gets less water. You don't want to do that. It's You don't get as good a saturation in the water.
It's been kind of supervising that too, though. You know, water.
You want to set a good example.
And so, we were so excited to talk about revenues and all that. I didn't get to give you the update on that. So
She's giving you the update on the well because we need to let you know that we're not going to have any expenses in the 24 budget because of the well. So she's going to explain to you where those expenses are going to come from so that we can make that in our budget.
yes.
Wow.
So luckily today, they got the last piece out. So I'll back up just to make sure. I don't know if everybody's been updated on the whole situation. But when the well went down, Hydro came out pretty quickly to pull it. They troubleshooted and figured out it was motor electrical. Have to pull it to be able to check it. And when they were pulling it, they dropped it. And since then till today, there's been a recovery. They've been working pretty much every day, into the evening, weekends, taking breaks as they needed, but they've been working hard. And they were so frustrated today, and then voila, they got the last piece. So, they finally got all the pipe out. I just want to show you some pictures of this. It's 1,400 feet deep, and they're fishing for pieces. But this is all the piping that they removed. You can see how badly damaged it was.
So how does the?
Really long, imagine a long road.
Yeah.
So they have a device, it was a metal device that is kind of like a handcuff, what is the Chinese handcuffs?
Oh, yeah.
And so whenever they pull up, it holds it so they can unscrew it and lay it down, and then you pull up another section, pull up another section. Well, a piece of the thing that holds it broke, the metal broke. And when it did, it allowed it to loosen a tiny bit, and it was dropped.
That's the right way.
So you can see how hard it hit. Now it's full of water, 1,400 feet full of 8-inch pipe, full of water. So they figured it weighed 40,000 pounds. At the very bottom of the pipe is the pump. This is the pump. You might remember pictures of it from the field when it had a car wreck. But you can see how badly damaged it is. The bowls on the pump were shattered. The last piece today was the motor. So they did finally, and all of this separated from it. So the pump separated from the casing pipe or the column pipe, and then the motor separated from the pump. So we finally got the motor out today. That's this long stainless steel piece here. You can see how bad it did something. It actually ruptured the side of the motor. So that's pretty much every piece of the well below ground, which have to all be replaced. So right now we're under that 2-year maintenance bond for the motor. And then because they have the pump equipment, they're going to replace it all. They'll have to replace the pump, the motor, the column pipe, the electrical wires, the air line, the transducer. Well, at the very bottom, there's it goes from an 8-inch to a 6-inch. That's where it caught most likely.
Well, what's damaged down there?
That's the part we don't know. So now that they've removed everything, they've got a camera coming. They'll go down, check the screen, check the casing, and make sure there's no damage. If there's no damage, they can give us a temporary pump motor, which was our original one that was in the wreck. And they fixed, but it would be temporary, so we can have it pumped in probably in 3 weeks or so. And then once our equipment comes in, the new equipment, they would have to come back for it again, install it. It's a 12-14 week lead time on the pump and motor, and some of the other parts. If it's damaged, then if it can be repaired, they'll make those repairs. If it's not repairable, they'll have to drill us another well. And that would be on the same property within 50 feet of the one we have now. So that we don't have to get any we have several options. They're aware of all of them. They've got them all going. Their goal is to fix the one we have, but they also know that if that's not feasible, then we can build on it.
Kind of independent person that looks at that.
Yes, so we have a hydrologist that was involved when we drilled it, so they're gonna be coming out and also looking at the video. Our engineering firm, we have our inspectors, plus we have another inspector with plumber. They've all been here through this, watching and taking pictures. I've probably only been over there twice, because they're all over there sending me pictures.
I've asked for a hard hat, so I can go that way.
He actually did go, he did
Get out of the
go,
truck.
he did go with it. He's not going.
Well, a hard hat, but a new Aubrey logo.
We're gonna get you, we'll get you a cowboy hat.
No, I'm saying those cowboy bar. But I can tell you all that to let you know there's no budget implications to it for 2024 or even right now because we're under the law and they're responsible. They roll.
And we don't have to worry about the water, right? Because that's at 450, we don't, we have 500,000 available.
Yeah,
Right
so,
now, we're at
so,
450.
yeah, right now we're doing really well. The rain has helped a couple different farms. We'll start going up and then we'll get rain and we'll start going down. And I'm printing that as well. We track it every day. So Sanco sends us a graph every day, showing us where we are. But, based on our triggers with our water conservation, if we hit the 700,000 a day, then we would probably need to issue one of our stages. But right now, we're staying around 500,000. Just kind of up and down a little bit. We haven't put that market.
So if 12 and 14 weeks lead time, and then how long to get all of that installed?
If everything's here to install it, they'll have it installed in a couple days.
Just pretty quick. And then worst case scenario, we drill, what is that? Look like?
9 days to re-drill and then to install.
It's the equipment.
Right.
Well, they can drill, but it could still depend on when the motor. Well, no, they can, I guess they can use the temporary.
It was like both less.
So you've heard, so you've heard from all the directors. Well, I think Chief Slaughter has one of these more to discuss, we're gonna wait for the next meeting to discuss, just add it to the list for the next meeting. Yeah, we can briefly discuss it, but I don't have the number. Let's just wait until the next meeting. We'll add that to the list. So you've heard from all of the directors. You now have all of the capital items that have been requested. I feel like that the directors have worked really hard to be conservative and work within our means, but also increase our services at the same time. We are adding 10 people. This budget is 10 people that will be added. 1 in fire, 5 for Leanne, and 4 in police. At least is 1 being covered by Providence? Half. Half of one of those 4 would be covered by Providence Village. So that puts us back at 3.5 as a direct cost to the problem back to the general fund. But I think we've come in really close. We're still at $500,000 surplus for next year. That will fluctuate between now and the next meeting. Because as we know, the snapshot you see today is wrong tomorrow morning. When it comes to budgeting, because it's not what you say, it's not a financial statement. It's budget. So we'll put together so that I know what you want at the next meeting, we'll put together a tax sheet so that you can see what our preliminary tax is going to be. We may have, by the 27th, we should get the certified rolls on the 25th. So she may be able to spin out the actual sheet by. Tax sheet, we should have that by the 27th. If not, we will have a one that we can look at. It's a forecast and see where we're at. So we'll let you at least make some informed decisions. Put together a list of all of the wants and desires of what the city needs. Land acquisition, capital that remains, fleet replacement fund, and all the other items that we can think of over the next couple of weeks before the meeting that we want to put in front of you to look at as far as short-term debt.
We do make sure that the balances are available to pay those things. Do not show things that have already been counted for. Like, public work. I don't want to see that 300,000 available, it's already going for public work.
The public works, yes, your surplus that you see right now does not include the public works bill. It is still in the budget. It is there. The 500 you're seeing is unencumbered money that is a surplus.
I know, but what I'm saying, like, if you look at the reserves amount, it says 7.2. That 300,000 is sitting in reserves, right?
No, it's still in the budget. It will fall into reserves at the end of this year.
But it's currently in reserve account.
You know,
It should be like the bank account, not on the budget, but the actual bank account.
the reserve account is in reserve.
Right, but that's at the bank where there's money. Not it's paper. And
Will be in the operating account.
So that reserve, goes up and down depending on the operating cap needs. So with the 7.2 at the end of May, it's down to 6.7 or 8 at the end of June, because the month of June had 3 payrolls in it. It was just a big month of spending. So it went down a little bit, but it's gonna go back up.
the reserve account or operating.
Well, the operating account used it, so I had to move funds from the reserve to the operating.
But we still have,
I know there's 300,000 set for public works building. That 300,000 is somewhere. It's not floating in space waiting on us to grab it and spend it on a building. It's in a bank somewhere.
no, not necessarily. It could be a revenue that hasn't come into us yet. So we constantly have revenue coming in that's not accounted for. I mean, who pays us the most? Providence Building pays us $70,000 a month. That's not necessarily that all of that $70,000, it's just revenue. I know it's attributed to Providence Village, but it also accounts for some of our surplus.
I think what you're talking about is that we need to know our future capital requirements, the impact of those on cash. When's it gonna hit cash, and where do we expect cash to be when it hits? And how are we gonna fund
Almost
it?
just keep 4 million in reserve. Anything over that, we can spend on any of these items. I don't want to spend $2 million on this group of items and then find out the reserve account's now at 3.2 because we just spent 800,000 more.
Mike will be able to forecast you what your reserve will be on September 3rd. So you'll have that number at the meeting. I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
He'll be able to forecast that number for you. He can't, he'll have to forecast it because we won't, like he said, it will fluctuate.
But that reserve has remained within a relative range. Several years.
That's pretty consistent.
And because we do generate surpluses on an annual basis, it goes up. That's what's happening. Of course, you get influxes sometimes, and you get a big amount coming in. But it stays within that relative range, and it's been doing this over the years, because we have not really made any big investments. But you're saying, well, we're planning on making some, so let's see the impact on that cash.
Well, that's what we talked about last time. That money's there. We're not spending it, but we're asking for more tax revenue, we're doing something wrong. We're not in business with banking money, right? We're in business with managing citizens. Correct. You don't want to. So we'll forecast the, what do you feel like the fund balance will be at the end of the year? It should be relatively, it's long done.
If I know the fact that June was, this is the first time I've had a new money from the reserve to the operating. It was a particularly large amount. I know basically what cash requirements are. I can forecast those out and I can say, this is where we'll end up if we don't make any big investments. And I think we have a good idea.
Is that what you?
Yeah.
Did that answer your
I
question?
did not say you spent all that.
I was waiting for you.
Any other requests for that meeting?
Talk about tax rate, what you do with fund balance. Yeah. What's your most recent run of the budget? The one I have is March 31st.
The package I gave you today.
I mean, like.
As of June.
Well, I'm still making entries to June, unfortunately. So
But as of March 31st.
This one that today is June 30th.
yeah,
Yeah, that's it. Then that.
Well, do you have the whole budget like?
he's gonna, Charles has said, yeah, I said it to him earlier.
We always talk about. The general fund, enterprise fund. What about all the other? funds?
Well, if you think about it, the debt service fund. That has a budget. The revenue comes in from property taxes and the debt schedule tells us what our principal and interest will be. That's all that's in that budget. That's the. And then we have the developer funds where we have development money coming in from invoices that I send out primarily for engineering and legal. That fund shows the expenses coming in and the revenue coming in. The net of those theoretically should be zero. So that's how I would budget it.
But like the developer holding it, historically, that's when we're always upside down on, so we're spending more money. That's when like, so are we supplementing the expenses on them?
No, I bill them 100% of what we charge them. There may be timing differences where I have, at the end of the year, I have to give a receipt of that. But unfortunately, the timing is, the work gets done, the invoice comes in, and it could be, especially in the case of some of our, like our legal team, they might send in an invoice months after they incurred the expense. So then I get hit with expenses from a prior period, then I have to turn around and bill it to the developer, and then of course they have to send me a check.
So I know most of those developer holding accounts, they paid up front, and once they reach the threshold, they have to replenish the funds.
They do.
When they run out, we stop doing it.
I don't know
Not
if
the
they're
good
stuck.
ones, not the good ones.
Yeah,
If they are, if they're good for it, I mean. Like Steve G was, I'm a huge stuff. If he went in the hole, yeah, if he went in the hole, you know, we're gonna be here for it.
but the two big ones right now are High Point and Keaton, and they've been paying unique invoice. Finally, just got invoices in from Burke. Which have to be all coded and then paid, and then I turn around and bill them. And I do that, when I bill them, it says that they paid me 600,000 and I paid 7, so I bill them for 200 to give us 100,000 in cushion. It doesn't always stay there. It does get upside down. You know,
So I think what you're saying is, yes, my, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it is upside down, you're using operating cash, go ahead and pay whatever it is. And
when I pay the bills when they come,
then the journal entries, if you go in and do your thing, then it shows it back up again, puts it back.
that's right. Those are-
Or whatever.
So-
You talking about your- you know, like,
But I bill the developers and then they send me a check. And that offsets our expense, that's sitting there. But I do fund it with the journal. Yeah. but
Take a-
debit cash.
Is this water fund that we got today, is this with the increase or is this without the increase?
So the,
The revenue is attached to that.
it has the increase in it, so we included a 4% increase in water and a 6% in sewer. And those, it's about almost even, about $65,000 of revenue.
that's going to have to come back to you though in consideration of what. Ready to do that.
We can actually look at all the grades. New legislation.
Yeah. Yeah. you can-
We have a meeting tomorrow, we will come. And we should know more about the consent on our. I'm scared if we were, when we started the budget process, because we were building it right. So, we will have some.
All about.
They have to grow. You know, I had heard the same thing, once we get to 100, the big thing is when you can become self-insured. But we're chasing that number. We can't, you know, what used to be 100, and I talked to Rodney about it last year, he said, well, really now, you know, it's 150, you know, so. I don't know, maybe we'll get there at some point, because that's really when you start making a difference, when you have power. Using your consultants, and you can, once you're self-insured, I mean, it's a whole lot better, because you're not out in the marketplace.
Right.
Looking for something, you know what your rates are, it's based on what you've done and what you're doing, what your claims rate has been, which some of that is now, but still. We're in an insurance market and we're not self-insured, so hopefully we'll get there at some point. It'd be nice. And I will say for budget purposes, in the past, previous administration has taken the surplus from the benefits fund and put it into the general fund. We're not planning to do that here. If there's a surplus in the benefits fund, we're going to leave it there. So part of the problem we realized is, had we been leaving those surpluses in that fund, we could have had the bad years.
Right.
We could have bought some of that down, but, you know, we've been zeroing it out based on what we've been told to do over the years. Previous.
And it doesn't help when you have to add employees mid-year either, right? Because especially if we had quite a few that we wanted to bring on that were maybe unbudgeted.
That's
Yeah,
true,
yes,
but what generally happens is they are budgeted for the full year, and then we bring them in. So that's where the surplus comes from. We charge ourselves too much.
So we want to leave a surplus in there from now on. In fact, when we come back to you next week, please be considering. I want to talk to Mike about it. I've not discussed this with him. I was waiting for him to talk to Rodney, but I might recommend that we put some money in the benefit fund as a replacement to the surplus that had been there in the past. And let's start with that, so that we know next year we'll have a little nest egg there. If we have a bad claims year and it goes up 25%, we have a little money as a cushion as we go forward. That way it kind of helps us as we move, because, you know, we could have a bad claim year and, you know, we could go up 25%. previously. What was it last year, 51?
Remember, they started off at 50%, we ended up at less than 20.
So,
17 or 18.
and that helps us keep one of the things that I want to try to do, and that I want to talk to Rodney about tomorrow, is I want to keep our employees level. Without the rates going up and down and up and down, and up and down. I want to try to get it level, and one of the ways to do that is to keep that surplus, so if we do have a bad clean year, we don't have to pass that cost on to the employee. We can shoulder that cost in that year, and hopefully have a good claim year, we come back the next year and do better.
That would help us to do all these pay increases, that was just gonna get.
Yes, ma'am. You have a number of employees that would salute you for saying. So that's part of our discussion tomorrow. Mike knows that already. I want to talk about that tomorrow with Rodney. What can we do? Because it is one of the chief complaints of our employees is the cost of individual healthcare. We're 100% on the employee side, except for those who go into the gold standard, which is $20 for payment. But our dependent coverage is extremely high, and we need to really focus on it. You are correct. A 6% pay increase really goes away really fast when you're raising rates 10%. So, we have a lot going on. We have a lot happening all at once, and I want to say again that I believe that we have a great team. I know that we have the support of the council. I tell our team that constantly. I tell people who listen to, how do you do this? How do you get all of this stuff done? And so we have to have a willing and confident and council that supports what you're doing. And a good team of directors that are conservative and making an effort to take care of our employees and trustworthy.
I think Aubrey's at a point right now where.
Sorry, even when one of them fails, yeah.
I think Aubrey's at a point right now where so many things are happening, it's changing the trajectory of the city. And being a part of the group that's deciding how that goes. The board could go many different directions. We're getting to decide where that path is. Forge it out, it's gonna.
It is an exciting time. Most of the staff is excited. Well, all of the staff is excited to some degree. Some people that have to work a little more, it's part of who they are and what they want to do. And I think that's part of our allure is we have a lot of support. And, it's just like with AJ leaving.
Yeah, we got
Knows
what's going
how-
on here.
He knows how disappointed I am about that. But that is going to help us with our recruiting, that we're in this situation where we need to add 31 employees over the next year. And that's with Bob. That's a big thing for an HR person coming in and knowing that we've got to add 31 employees, and that also communicates that level of growth to other people. For other positions as well. Look at this growth. It's fantastic. So, and especially for me and I, we're doing things that we never thought we would do in our careers. And it's pretty fun. It's really interesting seeing how it does.
That's interesting.
Some of the possibilities they have coming down the pipe too. It's like a super one there.
Well, all right, I think we have our marching.
Cameron will be due tomorrow.
Cameron due tomorrow. Do any directors have anything to add? The library's happy. Happy.
We're getting ready to close out for summer reading, so.
June 29th is
July 20.
July 29th. I'm having trouble with dates. July 29th is your end of,
The movie in the park and then with a mini carnival.
how much is the dunk tank?
How much is it?
Yeah, how much is the throw?
We're not charging.
Oh,
We have
it's free?
tickets, we have tickets that we're passing out.
You don't raise time.
And they take that when they-
I don't know.
So, Chief Brooks will be in the dump tank if you wanna go by. Apparently it's free.
Yeah,
I'm target around us.
at that point, we have to charge. Line will be so long.
Do you think it would be a long line? Sounds like it might be a wet.
The joke over here was, Doug, the team that brought you wine.
Oh.
We would definitely have to charge for balls.
Yeah.
We'd line them up around.
Yeah.
Around town.
Renee, you got a chance to reschedule those days?
We're looking into it, there's one on drinking probably in August, but it's gonna be a big event, it was over 70 people. So
I was there when we called it. There was a pretty large crowd.
they were counting, so we are gonna reschedule, but we don't have a specific date yet.
They're really not sure.
Yes.
You don't have anything to add? I have to.
Thank you all very much.
Everybody's happy. Everybody's happy.
Was a representative.
Get there.
I would, this was shorter than the MDD.
If no one else has anything, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Motion adjourned.